His most important ally is his greatest enemy. Boba Fett is alone in the world. His father is dead. He's never had friends. The only thing that keeps him going is his desire to survive and become a bounty hunter. Aurra Sing has taken him to Count Dooku's lair on the toxic planet of Raxus Prime. Boba thinks Dooku will help him, but Dooku has other plans, and the Jedi have their plans as well. The Clone Wars are raging throughout the galaxy, and Boba Fett is caught in a spectacular crossfire on Raxus Prime. What he discovers there will change the course of his life. Welcome, younglings, to Padawan Library, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I'm Tim May, here as always with Levi Peretic.
Hello!
I get to intro. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. When was the last time you watched Minority Report?
Like 5 years ago, maybe?
Okay, alright.
I saw you gave it a interesting rating. I don't feel like we need to get into it right now.
No, we don't. But you know what I do want to point out? The soundtrack to that movie, you could tell Johnny was scoring Attack of the Clones at the same exact time as he was doing Minority Report. Oh, right? It sounds so similar to the Attack of the Clones soundtrack. And whenever there's the big twist where Tom Cruise thinks he's discovered the man who's like stolen his son, the music there sounds so much like when Anakin is like toying with the dark side on Tatooine with the Sand people.
Speaking of John Williams, I just watched The Witches of Eastwick, the George Miller movie with Jack Nicholson and Cher and Susan Sarandon and Michelle Pfeiffer. Good lord.
Good cast.
Great cast. Incredible cast. And a fun movie. That had a John Williams score, which was...
nice.
You always forget that he used to do things besides Spielberg movies and Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. I mean, now he's just old and doesn't want to work that often. I get it. But
right. It's understandable.
But it was a fun score. I enjoyed it. So.
Right. His family's going to have a good paycheck. His family will be well taken care of.
Yes. I'm sure they're fine as is. But yeah. So... this week, by the way, in case you didn't look at the title of the episode, we're reviewing the second book in the Boba Fett series. What's it called?
Crossfire.
Crossfire. Boom, boom, boom. All right, and so... But before that, listen, we talked too much Star Wars last week.
Too much.
For this Star Wars podcast. Just too much. Too much. And so, we're going to talk... a little Sopranos today. And there's an impetus for this. We have a letter, right?
Right, we do have a letter. Okay. And we have Rip Mamba 824 again. Yes. He's back.
824, it's two separate numbers. Think of that.
Okay, alright, I'll keep that in mind. So there's two comments he left. The first one I want to say to you is, it's about your top 10 list.
Oh no,
he said,
my top 10 NBA players a few weeks ago.
He said... Okay. Tim's top 10 list was almost identical to mine, except I had Wilt instead of Russell. So,
okay,
there you go.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Russell, I go with first of all just because he's the greatest winner. For those of you who don't know, Bill Russell, he was on the Boston Celtics in the '60s, played 13 seasons, won 11 championships. That's just never going to happen again, ever. Listen, league was smaller, pretty watered down, competition-wise, I get it. But still, incredible. Also, just an iconic player, iconic person. So is Wilt. Wilt, though, Russell's teams dominated Wilt's teams, and they played in the same era. That's, it's a little unfair because Wilt never played on, his teams were never as good as the Celtics. The Celtics were like a dominant team, but I don't know. It's hard he's definitely top like 11 or 12 for sure.
Right.
That's fine. I totally get that, and if we agree largely on the rest of the list, then that's awesome.
Here's why you're wrong about this decision, but the rest of the list were fine. So, but he disagreed with that. I was explaining why I chose specifically Russell over Wilt, which I did. That's the thing. Yes, you did.
That is the basic. That is like a quintessential like which guy do you want, and really most people are certainly most people under like 50 are only going to have one of those two guys in their top 10 probably. So I go with Russell just because he's the greatest winner and he's just an absolute icon. But I get it. Yeah.
Okay, well the whole reason we're actually here is because of another comment. He said it's more basketball, so if you don't like the basketball talk, tune out.
One more basketball thing before we get to this next basketball thing. Okay. We're recording this on Sunday, so pretty early, but tonight is the beginning of the 10-hour Chicago Bulls documentary, Last Dance. So there's 2 hours of that on tonight. Very exciting. I will be.
How many hours is it?
10.
Okay.
So it's going to be two hours a week, 5 weeks. I'm so excited. I could not be more excited for something, honestly, in my life. So, and I was already really excited, but they moved it up because there's no basketball, obviously. So it was supposed to premiere in June, and they moved it back. So I was already super excited. They've been hyping this for like 2 years. They announced it like 2 years ago or something crazy with a trailer. Like they had a trailer 2 years ago, so it's like, it's in my grasp. Here. And like again, like like everybody my age and like 10 to 20 years older than me, like this is the reason I love basketball is that team. So I'm very excited.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, I keep seeing these advertisements for Shaq's reality series. I think it's just called Shaq.
Those are two different people, right?
I know, right? But the reason I bring it up is because in the ad, Shaq's like, nothing gets in my ways in a competition. Not adults, children, babies, and they show him like holding a baby in one hand. It's very silly. But then he's shaking ladies with this little old woman. And she goes, do you know Michael Jordan? And he's just like, I'm better than Michael Jordan. And the lady's just like, oh.
He just said like some nonsense about how his Lakers with Kobe would have beaten the Bulls if they played in the finals. Disagree. But I'm glad he thinks that, he's a competitor. And to be fair, his Magic did beat the Bulls in the season when Jordan came back in '95 in the middle of the season, but he wasn't all the way back in basketball shape yet, in my view. So unfair.
Unfair. All right. The whole reason we're here is, here we go. Rip Mamba said to us, he said, hey, since you guys did a basketball draft for Little Women, would you consider doing a basketball draft for The Sopranos? I'm sure neither of you would want to draft Tony, since he never had the makings of a varsity athlete. Small hands, that was always his problem. Hilarious reference to the show. Uncle Junior, something Junior said. So funny. Also, if you're not a Sopranos fan, it's available for free right now.
Yeah,
HBO put it out as free.
It's one of HBO's free options. You just go to their website and you can watch it.
Just start watching. It's the
best.
So it is
legitimately the best show. I agree. It's the best show.
So you and I talked about this last week, and the idea of doing a draft, we were struggling a little bit since none of the guys in this show
very few characters are very athletic, honestly.
Exactly. And we both mentioned who our number one picks would be to each other, and we both agreed that Jackie Jr. would be the most athletic for this.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So what we decided to do instead, we did a bracket It's all going to be a one-on-one basketball tournament between 16 Sopranos characters, and I've designed a bracket, seeded it, and everything. I think there's some fun matchups here.
Oh, I bet there are.
And listen, there's a few characters, major characters, I didn't wind up including just because I wanted to have like the funniest possible characters as well as like. So like, I had to cut Dr. Melfi. I had to cut no shots at Dr. Melfi, and I had to cut like I had to cut Bobby. There's some characters I love that I had to cut just because we needed to get a few major players in. And there's one character I wanted to put in. Like, cause I got a few very minor characters here. I wanted to put I wanted to put Furio in, and I couldn't get
Furio would have rocked the court.
I couldn't quite get Furio in there, and I did. And there's one other character that you have yet to meet, because you're only you finished season 5, right?
Correct.
So, there's a character from late in the series, I'll figure out a way to tell Mamba, rip Mamba.
I'm sure he'll figure it out. He seems to have watched the whole series.
I'm sure he's watched the whole show, but I don't know. He's a character who appears in one scene.
Okay, all right.
That's all I'll say. All right, he probably will get it from that. Anyway.
Okay,
so,
all right.
In order to make this easy, so we have instead of 2 people, we need 3 people, an odd number.
Yes, so we have no ties. So we have a special guest. We had to contact their lawyer to get him on the show here. Heading up to the stage now. Come on. Welcome to Padawan Library. You're on the air.
Hey, it's me, Adam Driver.
Oh, well.
Just kidding. Adam Driver's gone. Adam Driver's not here.
Oh, Adam Driver.
There's no Adam Driver.
I wish Adam Driver was here since he's the best actor of his generation.
Dude,
oh my god.
Dude, you were trying to raise a family in New York.
All I want to do is raise a family in New York. There you go.
So disrespectful.
That's all there is to it.
Have you, No. That is...
I'm not super familiar with his work, I guess I should say, but...
Let me just list a few things quick. Black Klansman, he's incredible in that.
I didn't see that. Because that's just a great film. Like, you could put
He's in great movies! Role. He's in almost nothing but great movies
oh my god, don't get me started, Tim. It's because he sold his soul, but it's fine. We're not gonna... This is why Adam Driver can't be here right now. It's okay.
Okay, he's also, he's Patterson, the Jim Jarmusch movie. He's great.
We didn't see that. I need to see that one.
He's great. He was great on Girls. I don't care. I don't need to hear anybody's opinions about that.
Yeah, that right there is a losing argument.
It doesn't. That show's incredible. You're wrong. Anyway, so and he was great. He's great in literally everything. I honestly have never seen him give a bad performance. So I don't understand the hate from one person and one person only in my entire life.
Well, there's got to be somebody, I guess.
All right.
If there's one injustice in this world that I will speak out against, it'll be Adam Driver. Okay.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to say Jared Leto. That's how I.
Well, he's actually bad. He's actually a bad actor outside of My So-Called Life. So.
Actually, a terrible person. Yeah, not just fun to make fun of.
Anyway.
All right, let's get into this.
Why
tournament.
Are we talking about this? We're talking about the Sopranos.
What is this again?
We're doing a tournament, all right? We have 16 Sopranos characters. Obviously, we couldn't fit some in there, but you're gonna be given 16 matchups, and you're gonna be asked. 8 matchups. It's like a tournament kind of thing.
Okay.
So we decide who would win in a game of one-on-one basketball. All right. Go ahead and begin.
All right. Our first matchup: the 16 seed Vincent Pastore as Salvatore Big Pussy Bompancero versus the number 1 seed Erica Learshin as Birgit Olaf Dottir, aka Adriana's tennis instructor.
Oh, Oh, okay.
Adriana's tennis instructor for sure.
Okay. All right, so that is our first winner. All right.
Starting strong.
Yep.
All right,
our next matchup.
She may be the most athletic one on this list.
Yeah, that was going to be like my top pick.
There's a reason she's the number one seed, so... All right. Number 9. Edie Falco as Carmela Soprano.
Shit.
All right. Versus, I thought this was an interesting matchup, versus Paul Schultz as Father Phil Intentola.
Oh, that is a good matchup.
Passion. How much pasta have they each eaten?
The father he's such a fun character.
I'm sad we don't really get to see him as much anymore.
But, you try to come on to a bunch of housewives,
A true icon.
That's only something you can pull off for so long, then you gotta lie.
Right.
He shows up, I think, 1 or 2 more times after where you've been. So.
All right. I'm going to go with Carmela on this one.
I would say Carmela.
I agree. Carmela would just kind of like... I don't know. She would
not be afraid to use those nails.
Yeah.
And Carmela takes tennis.
Right?
She would also
exactly.
not like. She knows how to melt Father Phil. So
yes, exactly.
All right.
The mind games.
Our next matchup: the number 13 seed, James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano, versus the number 4 seed, Vitaly Banganov as Valerie, a.k.a. the Russian that got lost in the woods.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that dude took a gunshot to the head and kept going.
But here's the thing. I think we shouldn't conflate... Listen, as the series progresses, Tony gets... and James Gandolfini get more and more out of shape. But in the beginning, even though he's still a heavy-set man, he's pretty strong, at least. I think he could bang down with the best of them.
In the one episode, he walked from, like, that one dude's house, like, through the woods back to his Johnny Sack's house whenever the FBI comes to get him. He just starts running.
Yeah, he could run for quite a bit. I think he'd just be committing
hard fouls constantly. But this is but one-on-one's inherently like a pickup game, so you can't really keep calling your own fouls.
Right.
So I don't know.
This is a hard one. And the problem is I don't want to eliminate Tony right away. I
mean, I'm fine with Tony. Also,
I think I would have to go with.
I'm going to go with Tony too.
Yeah, the Russian, like he may not have. Who knows? Like he might be a little too old. Like
he's like too big.
I'm saying he might be a little too old to be like he probably grew up before the Dream Team, so like for foreign born people, that's a bit of a disadvantage. You might not know the game as well. So at that point. So anyway, so the 13 seed, that's an upset. 13 Tony. All right. The 12 seed, and there's a reason he's above. I'll explain why he is above Tony. This sounds a little silly, maybe. The number 12 seed, Little Steven Van Sant, a.k.a. Miami Steve, as Silvio Dante.
Okay.
Versus the number 5 seed, Robert Eiler, as Anthony A.J. Soprano Jr.
Wow,
and we're talking about... Listen, as far as AJ goes, I'm using final season AJ, so adult AJ basically.
Okay.
Here's my argument for AJ. One, I'm not even necessarily going to say AJ, but my argument for AJ going maybe kind of deep in all of this is that he is by far the youngest, and he's not in bad. When he grows up, he's not really in bad shape. He's maybe not in great shape or anything, but like he's like in the prime of his career as a one-on-one basketballman. So that's my argument. the reason Sil is above Tony is that Miami Steve himself, and if you don't know, Miami Steve is the original nickname for Steven Van Sant, pre-Little Steven, that Bruce Springsteen gave him because he's the only member of their band that had traveled as far south as Miami. Oh, wow. So they called him Miami Steve. That's when they were just like a bar band. Anyway, very funny nickname. So I still call him that. But anyway, so... but he's in his 70s, and he still plays 3-4-hour shows, like, with the E Street Band. That takes some actual physical, like, endurance, even though he looks like a little gnome man. Like, I don't know, like, he should, that's why I had to put him above Tony, just because Tony's breathing gets so heavy.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like even, like, Sil, like, as a character, he's gotta work out at least once a week.
Maybe, yeah, you know? he keeps the weight off.
Yeah, no, he's in pretty good shape. I don't know. And I think he, like, as you guys just learned, he has the mentality of a killer, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's what
he knows how to see, like, he cuts down to the facts.
Uh-huh.
So,
I mean...
So, AJ... or Sil? What do you think?
Man, I want this to go to Sil.
Now, if it's AJ, though, we'll have father versus son in the next round.
Well then I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with AJ.
I mean, you wouldn't want to see that. Yeah.
AJ?
I feel like, but even, like, just, you know, character versus character.
Yeah.
AJ's a little taller, too.
Yeah. And you know Tony's gonna be fouling AJ all over the place, slapping him in the back of the head. Like...
Okay. Oh, man. The next round. Oh, my God, this next matchup. Dominic Chianese, the 15 seed Dominic Chianese as Junior Soprano, Uncle June himself.
Wow.
Versus the number 2 seed Jason Serbone as Jackie Aprile Jr.
Oh, no.
Who decided Junior could be in this? The man can't even, like, go to court. Like, he's not mentally capable to, like, have a basketball game.
Okay, then I mean, listen, no. Junior's gonna, like, insist that he's there, though. Like, even though he can't do it, and everybody knows he can't do it, he's gonna be, like, offended, and Tony's gonna allow it just so that he can get him off his back, you know?
Now, do you think if Junior has, like, a court in his backyard, like, by his garage, do you think his house arrest would allow him out to
he's not in house arrest. We can pick him from any point in the series.
Okay, all
right. We could have season 1... You know,
all right.
Okay, all right.
Cunnilingus and psychiatry brought us to this place. So listen. It's obviously
either way, it's
Jackie Jr.
Kind of a rough
it's Jackie Jr.
Yeah.
It's Jackie Jr.
We had picked Jackie Jr. as like our favorite going into this,
right?
The first,
right.
Which I just.
We talked about this last week.
Right.
We were just Tim offhand mentioned that Jackie Jr. would be definitely on one of his picks, and I was like, "Whoa, he's my number 1 pick."
All right. Oh, geez, this is a rough one. These
all have been very rough.
I listed them 1 to 16, and I didn't necessarily know offhand how they would be matched up when I put it in the generator. This one is. I wouldn't want to watch this match. It might be very disturbing. The 10
Jim never misses a baseball.
The 10 seed, Joey Pants himself as Ralphie Cifaretto.
Oh no! Oh man!
Versus Jamie Lynn Sigler as Meadow Soprano.
Oh,
very upsetting.
Very upsetting. We know has experience on the court. Probably the most canon, solid experience.
Ralphie. We've seen play basketball before,
yeah.
Right? So we know he can at least dribble the ball.
Yeah, but I don't think he's actually good. Is the thing,
right?
Yeah.
And he's also way too angry. If this were like a ref game, he'd foul out so quickly.
Right.
Oh yeah. And with Meadow,
one thing about Meadow is she is a winner. She's not gonna lose easily. Mm-hmm. She's gonna fight.
Yep.
Meadow, you know.
And you know what's gonna happen in this match? At the end of this match, no matter who wins, Tony is going to kill Ralphie.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because if Meadow wins, he's like, my daughter could beat you. You're like, it's pathetic because I'm an old school kind of guy. And then like if he beat her, he'd be like, you beat my daughter. You didn't let her win.
Yeah, he's dead.
And Ralphie's
That's
dead.
Disrespect. That's fucking disrespectful.
All right, so I actually would go with Meadow though, because
same.
Yeah.
Meadow, didn't she play volleyball or something in the first season?
Or softball,
Yeah.
something like that.
Soccer.
Oh, soccer,
actually,
because the coach was a pedophile or whatever. Yeah, okay. So 7 seed Meadow Soprano. The Soprano family doing very well here so far.
Yes, they are. We're going to have some good matchups later on, possibly.
Okay. 2 more first-round matchups. Okay, the number 14 seed, Tony Sirico as Paulie Walnuts Gutierrez. All right, versus Drea De Matteo as Adriana La Cerva, the number 3 seed.
Oh, damn.
So I think Paulie's done. Paulie wouldn't be able to handle himself.
Paulie would be destroyed, especially because, Adriana, we've seen her on the tennis court.
No, he wouldn't be able to handle himself. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, exactly.
Logical thing, too. Like, he makes one slip up, he's done on himself. Like, it's over.
So,
he would go in strong, I'm sure, but, I don't think he'd be able to keep
Of course, he'd get fouled up, and he'd be so pissed. He'd be already, mad.
Aid's got
Adriana, easy.
All right, and this is a fun matchup. The number 11 seed, John Ventimiglia as Artie Bucco versus the number 6 seed, Michael Imperioli as Christopher Moltisanti.
Oh, Christopher, without a doubt.
Well, I don't know. Did they ever say, was Artie on the football team in high school?
He might have been. I'm not positive.
No, because when Tony had the dream with the coach, the coach said something about he's hanging out too much with that Artie Bucco kind of thing. So I don't think Artie was on the. You
gotta say, for as much as Artie cooks, he does, keep
Chris
trim. He's not a fat chef.
That's true.
So he might work out.
It also depends. Chris he has lots of issues.
Yeah, right. And it depends on what kind of condition he's in. Too.
He's been shot before. Didn't he have his spleen removed or something like that?
And he's he looks a lot older. I mean, part of it is because Michael Imperioli is older than the character's supposed to be, but I think they purposely cast a little older. Because he's lived pretty hard. But, by that second Bulls three-peat, though, Dennis Rodman had lived pretty hard, too. And
he did.
They still won 3 in a row. But that's a team game. This is one-on-one. So, I don't know.
This one's a tough one. This one is, I'm going to say, I don't think he's going far in this. Well, I don't think either of them would go necessarily far in this.
Whoever wins is going up against Aid in the next round.
Oh, and they're done. They're done no matter what. Well, then in that case, I'm going to go with Artie then, because we've seen Christopher and Aid go at each other.
Yeah, that's
before.
Not even a contest. So,
right, I'm going with Artie.
Artie,
for the drama of it, I'm going with Artie too. Okay. Just because I could see for something like this, Christopher just shooting up and God else what he does.
Yeah,
and then just being a complete mess.
Yeah, Artie,
or just.
Artie's only flaw is that he's always constantly hitting on his hostesses. So, and that's going to be the reunion of that with him and Adriana. Yeah. He's going to lose, so...
Okay, well, on to round 2. The number 1 seed, the tennis instructor, versus the number 9 seed, Carmela Soprano.
Oh
shit.
Now, Carmela, do you think she could have gotten a tennis match over this lady? On a random off day for her?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know about that. If you're a professional tennis instructor, that's what you do.
And
I don't think you're losing.
I remember the tennis instructor made Carmela gather the balls while she gave special attention to Adriana. So.
Oh yeah, of course. But anyway, listen. The only other thing, though, is that this is not tennis. This is basketball.
Right, this is basketball.
And now Carmella's in shape. She's in shape enough to go to tennis lessons on a regular basis.
Right.
Okay. The tennis instructor is a tennis instructor. She probably doesn't... she's probably a one-track sport person. Mm-hmm, I doubt she plays any basketball, you know? That's the argument you could make.
Point there.
You could make that Carmella might have played basketball in middle school or something.
Right. Yeah.
And when Carmella commits to something, she's committed to it, to making it happen. So, I'm going to go with Carmella on this one.
Also, she might have been pretty annoyed. She might be pretty annoyed by the tennis instructor because she favors Adriana in the lessons.
Right. Yeah.
This could be a blood match.
And she's not taking tennis instructions anymore. So yeah, maybe something bad happened there too.
All right.
I would go with Carmella.
Let's go Carmella. Why not? Let's have some fun. All right.
Woo!
Carmella, the number 9 seed. That's a big upset. All right. Father versus son. Tony versus Tony Jr.
Oh shit.
AJ himself.
I say AJ wins, but no matter what, he's going to get beat somehow by Tony.
I disagree. Tony wins. Tony so mentally dominates AJ. Listen, AJ's too busy listening to Bob Dylan songs in an SUV. You'll see it soon.
Wow, spoiler.
Huge spoiler. He's not a sporting type, really.
No.
Yeah,
and Tony, true. Tony would be very motivated to win. Because, the kind of guy he is.
All right, well, I've said AJ. I've said Tony. Wait, I've said AJ. You said Tony.
I would say Tony, actually.
All right, Tony wins.
Just because, the mask that he has on AJ, I feel like he would definitely use that to his advantage.
So does that mean Carmella, Tony next round?
Yeah. They'll be in the semifinals. That's...
Wow.
Well, we've seen Whitecaps, so we can take that into account. All right, next match, though. Jackie Jr. versus Meadow. This is a fun a reunion of sorts. All right.
Well, I could see Jackie Jr. being a jerk and not a gentleman and just dominating this match and beating Meadow,
or pressuring Meadow into you can't beat me.
Yeah, just being an all around terrible boyfriend. So this one's a toughie. I want Meadow to win because Meadow's the underdog.
Right, exactly. But it's in reality, what would really happen?
You got anything to say, Tim?
Tim put.
Listen, I want Meadow to win so badly because I love Meadow.
Let's go Meadow then. I'm down with Meadow.
I just want her to win though. Would she? She's pretty athletic, and she could he probably would assume too much going into the match.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because Jackie Jr.'s not a smart kid,
and and she could probably get one over on him. It depends. Are we playing to
for sure.
Are we playing to 9 or something?
Yeah. Let's play to 9. Let's play to 9.
Okay, Mel. All right.
Or we could just do pig. I feel like it's.
You mean horse?
Yeah, sure.
Is there a game called Pig? I don't think so.
Too many letters in
guess.
Anyway.
Next match.
Meadow moves on. All right. Adriana Lacerva versus Artie Bucco.
Oh, Adriana.
Yeah, Adriana.
This is...
For sure.
Listen, I feel bad for Artie.
She would rip his earring out.
All right,
he'd be wearing it for the match, though.
All right, our final 4 is Carmella Soprano, Tony Soprano, Meadow Soprano. The Soprano nuclear family doing very well. Poor AJ, because Adriana is the odd person out here. So, okay, let's do it. Carmella versus Tony.
This is This might be the toughest match of the night right here.
I think it's Carmella in a walk.
I think it's Carmella too.
I feel like if anyone could have that psychological control over Tony to get him to
You guys just watched season 5,
submit,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carmella owns Tony Soprano.
Yeah, for sure.
No problems. All right,
Carmela it is.
We gotta go Carmela.
Okay, now for the next Adriana versus Meadow, right?
Yeah. Listen, I love Meadow. I want Meadow to win, but Adriana, is very athletic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
Adriana goes running. I feel like
but she also smokes cigarettes.
That's her one drawback.
She could run out of breath, but all these people smoke practically. She smokes
not
more.
Meadow though.
Meadow does not. That's true. I don't know, but
tough one.
We've just seen her in more active physical competition before.
That's true.
That's true.
So it's hard to ignore that evidence. But we're on our 34th minute of Sopranos talk.
All right. I want to say I want Meadow to win because I want to see mother-daughter.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh man, have you seen the Eloise episode?
Yes, okay. Yes.
Wait, which one?
The one where the Eloise episode where they go to the place and they go to wear the gloves.
Oh,
and
that's
just big fight.
That's just gonna make me sad though. Carmela and Adriana, they're friends.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
well, okay, we could do it either way.
I don't know. This is not what I would have predicted necessarily. I really thought the tennis instructor was going to go a lot farther, but I made that Carmela argument, so it's my fault.
Yeah, well, she's never met Carmela Soprano before. So.
All right, well, let's go. Do I have a tiebreaker here, or what's going on?
I don't know. I said Meadow.
Yeah, I said Meadow too.
No, then it's Meadow. That's what it is. Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Okay.
Meadow versus Carmela. Oh boy.
Listen. I don't know. It depends. Obviously, Meadow. We're talking about full-grown woman Meadow, at least season 3 or 4 on Meadow, not high school Meadow.
Right.
Although maybe that'd be better for her. I don't know, because she might be in better athletic shape at that point.
Right. But I mean, she's still way younger.
Yeah, but Carmela is that might be an advantage. That's obviously an advantage.
Yeah.
Usually in athletic competition. I don't know.
This is a hard one. This is definitely the hardest one of them.
I wish there was a simulator or something. we just call the actresses.
We input the two. Okay.
Did you know that Jamie Lynn Sigler is playing a character, is voicing a character on some Disney channel cartoon, and they're calling her the first Jewish Disney princess?
No. Wow. Did you know
she's also on Beef House?
The new Tim and Eric sitcom.
Oh, okay. Good
She plays Eric's wife, detective. She's a detective, and she basically the concept is there's 5 guys living in a house. There's Tim and Eric, and then there's 3 of their other regulars from Awesome Show. Yeah. But they together or collectively are the Beef Boys, a gang of boys who hang out, and that's when they call themselves the Beef Boys. And there's a character named Ben-Hur, and he's obsessed with porn. And then there's Tennessee, and Tennessee is the mystical one of the group. And
they make too many programs, is my opinion about Tim and Eric. But
yeah, they spread themselves pretty thin.
Yeah, but anyway,
they make some funny stuff. Anyway, good.
But then Edie Falco's had show after show.
Yeah, she's in some.
Edie Falco's an actress. She's not writing a million shows at once.
That's true, but
you're comparing Edie Falco. No. This is not even. They don't even have the same job. We're not. What are we talking about? Also, she's in one show at a time. It's not like she's.
Well, yeah, I know, but she's like Ted Danson that way, where Ted Danson goes from show to show.
Yeah, except Ted Danson has a better resume overall, but
Well, I mean,
for now,
how can you compete with Cheers? So
Ted Danson has 2 all-time great shows. I would say, unfortunately for Edie, 1. But she's still incredible. She's great in Hal Hartley's Trust. Great movie from 1991. Incredible movie. She's awesome in that. And Nurse Jackie's a good show, but it's not The Sopranos. What do you want? Anyway.
Well, what can you do?
Well, maybe since we can't decide on this, should we ask...
Leave it to the viewers.
Or leave it to the viewers, huh?
There's one person that cares, maybe 2.
But you know what? We put it on him to decide.
I would argue for Carmelo.
That's probably who I would have said.
That's who I was gonna say
then
too.
It's
I want Carmelo to win. It's Carmelo.
There we go.
And
if you disagree, then
all right, Rip Mamba.
Rip Mamba, listen. You can't say that you haven't been told. Carmelo wins. All right. When we come back, we'll be talking about Boba Fett?
Yeah, Boba Fett Crossfire.
Crossfire.
Pew pew.
Cool.
I hate this city. I miss New York. Oh, what?
Get out of here, Adam.
I can't do it. No. The slander against Mr. Driver. Get out of here. Incredible.
Oh my God.
When we come back, Boba Fett Crossfire. Pew pew.
It's sometime in the future. The ultimate challenge. Crossfire. Crossfire. You get caught. Crossfire. Crossfire. You get caught. Crossfire. 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 You'll get caught up in it.
Hello, welcome back. Star Wars Boba Fett #2 Crossfire, a Clone Wars novel, and this one is written by Terry Bisson, and the cover has been illustrated by Louisa Bova. I don't have information on her this week. I said I was going to, but she does all the books, so we can talk about her whenever. Because we have.
Oh, you just haven't looked for information.
Haven't looked yet.
I thought you hadn't found anything. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, maybe next week.
Well, we got Elizabeth. Is it Elizabeth Hand? Is that her name?
Elizabeth Hand. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to talk about her next week. So she's
the mysterious Elizabeth Hand.
Well, I mean, if Terry Bisson is anything like Dave Wolverton, then he sets it up, and then the true maestro enters and finishes off the story. So we will see.
So we left off last week. We both were fairly positive on the first book. Like we had a fun time with it, and we definitely had a good time talking about it. The good little boy Boba Fett.
But you know what? I feel like he wisens up in this book.
Yeah, he's definitely closer, if not to Boba Fett, then at least Attack of the Clones Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Boba Fett I want in life. But, so, yeah, basically it left off, remember, he was in the hands of Count Dooku, seemingly,
correct.
That's what he wanted, because his father had left him his
fortune. His fortune's apparently with Dooku.
And, he thinks Dooku's on like, the side that he wants to be on in the war, basically. So, because he hates the Jedi and all that stuff. So, it's on this trash planet. What's the trash planet called again?
Raxus Prime.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not the only time Raxus Prime has been around, but I'm haven't bothered to look it up.
I'm sure there are other appearances by that planet. Or maybe not, who knows. Sometimes I think I recognize something from somewhere, and then I look it up, and it's only in that book.
Right. Because, I feel like there's a trash planet in the Shadows of the Empire video game, with the Battle of IG-88.
Yeah,
it seems like a trash planet.
Yes,
so.
that level is annoying as hell.
It's so scary to be chased by a robot. I don't care what medium it is. It's something that I never want to have happen.
Isn't there like a time limit on the boss battle?
Yeah, they're
super
so
annoying.
Stressful. And IG-88 just kind of blends in with the trash too, so he's hard to see.
Oh man. Well, I played that game again recently.
Uh-huh.
Like a few years ago, and I was playing it in an N64 without what do you call it? The enhancement pack.
Oh, whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. To improve the graphics or whatever.
And I don't know if it improved graphics of a game like Shadows of the Empire, because I think that was a launch title for N64, but man, I was like just shocked by how bad it looked. And like there's other games of that exact same period that I don't think look bad. Like I think Super Mario 64 still looks very good. Obviously it looks of its time, but it still looks good to me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a video game person really, but I have a lot of N64 memories, of course, as anybody my age does.
Okay.
Besides you, because you were a PlayStation boy.
Yes, I was a PlayStation boy.
You never played a Mario game until like 5 years ago, right?
Right. I was playing Masters of Terrakaz, or Terrakasi, as they called it in Solo. Raxus Prime has a little bit of a history. But the first appearance is in this book, and then it shows up in Crossfire, and then it shows up in the Clone Wars video game, which you have if
that
you
came
actually
out
have
around the same time,
right? If you have the book, you'll know. If you look at the timeline, the Clone Wars timeline in the back of the book, that canonically shows up next. So following this book, so if we. Do
you think any of our listeners are still listening after that first segment? Which was literally a half hour of Sopranos talk, of like pretty shallow Sopranos talk.
Not even deep. We didn't get deep into anything, and we all largely agreed.
And then just arguing about the greatest actor of our time. It's very odd.
Yep.
Listen, we have a strange show here.
We do. We do.
We were too good last week. We were good little boys last week, much like Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
We talked mostly about Star Wars, only a little bit of, Trancers talk at the beginning.
Only a little bit.
Just
only
a little.
A tiny bit.
Just a little. Anyway, all right. So this book starts off, on something Prime.
Raxus Prime.
Raxus. And Lil Boba is told by Dooku, basically, that, okay, yeah, what's this about your fortune? Yeah, maybe if you earn it, you'll be able to get it. And, Boba Fett's like, what the fuck?
And he keeps saying, I have training for you. He keeps mentioning this.
Yeah, does he want to, turn him into a Sith Lord? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very confusing as to what Dooku wants. And then, so Dooku ushers him off with some lackey, who, you think is going to be a big part of the story, but isn't.
It doesn't matter. You don't need to know his name. He's a lackey. Boba Fett goes running off, wandering off, looking at stuff. He eventually discovers that Dooku is digging on this planet for something.
Right.
What is he looking for?
The Force Harvester.
The Force Harvester. And Boba Fett's like, Force, isn't that some Jedi nonsense? He's just grunting Pusha T or something.
He hates the Jedi.
It's so embarrassing. Then he thinks he's gotten away with it, but then he's caught by that crony, and the crony delivers him back to Dooku, and Dooku's like, "You're in trouble, little boy."
Dooku's about to kill him or something that.
But then Boba basically is like, what if I? Because Dooku thinks he knows. He thinks he knows that he knows about the Force thing, the Force Harvester.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the Force Harvester. Boba claims that he's already told someone else about it. Specifically, told Aura Singh about it, and so, for whatever reason, that makes him leave Boba alive, and Count Dooku flees the scene because the Jedi have arrived. Jedi and clone troopers have arrived to raid his compound. So he flees, gets away, and Boba
and then
runs.
There's also the thing too. Remember where Dooku stops Boba, and it's just like, hey. You called me Tyrannus, and you've also heard me called Dooku. Maybe you shouldn't be telling people about that, or else, little boy. So Boba's got a big secret of Dooku's. So
yeah. So basically, he runs off, and then he winds up in the clutches of a clone trooper. Whose number I can't remember. He's a clone trooper. CT4619, I believe his name is.
Okay. Important stuff, right?
He's a clone trooper. And obviously Boba Fett has a weird relationship with clone troopers. I do think it's weird that none of the troopers ever recognize, this is what I looked like a couple of years ago.
It is weird. You know what also I think is weird is the fact that the Jedi, I'm sure they had to have questioned this, but the fact that Jango Fett was the basis for these guys, for these clones, and then we head to Geonosis, and Django's on the other side. Wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah, but they might not. I don't know. Who knows? Whatever. It is what it is. The Clone Wars are very murky, both story-wise and morally, so it works out, ultimately. So they... basically, the clone trooper is like, "Oh, are you like an orphan?" And like Boba Fett plays along like he is an orphan. So they head off to a big Jedi cruiser. What's the name of the ship?
I couldn't tell you what the name of the ship is. I just figured it was one of those like big Star Destroyer looking things.
It's something anyway, and I guess there's a whole crew of refugee kids that have been separated from their families,
orphans, and they're going to whatchamacallit? They're going to Cloud City. They're going to an orphanage in Cloud City.
Yeah,
and while Boba's there, he makes a friend, and this friend's name is Gar.
And this is, I will say this book was 2002, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Gar is a part of an alien species I can't remember the name of, that their gender is non-determinate until they hit puberty.
Yeah, 13.
13. And there's like a fairly, it doesn't map directly onto real life or anything, but there is a fairly not particularly dated explanation of a gender non-binary type person.
Right, I thought this was really craftily done.
I was surprised. It's not just because it's it's a book for kids in 2002 at the peak of post 9/11 Bush years. Mm-hmm. That's impressive.
Yeah, on page 69 here, this is where this begins. Gar had a secret too, at least as for Boba was concerned, or at least a mystery. The mystery of whether Gar was a boy or a girl. Boba had gone so long without figuring out that now he was almost embarrassed to ask, but he knew enough not to let embarrassment hold him back. That was part of wisdom, too. Oh, thinking about his dad's witticisms that are constantly popping up.
He's like Yogi Berra as a bounty hunter, Jango Fett.
So, Gar, he said one day as they were strolling down a long corridor, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" Not at all, Gar said, "as long as you don't mind if I don't answer." Fair enough, Boba said, recognizing what he said when Gar was asked about his mother. "Are you a boy or a girl? Like male or female?" "Yeah, you know." "I don't know, actually," said Gar. "I mean, I know what you mean, but I don't know yet whether I'm male or female. On my planet, it's not determined until the age of 13. "Determined?" Boba asked. "Somewhere around our 13th birthday, our bodies change and we become one or the other. Until then, it's sorta, up in the air." "Cool," Boba said. "I was just wondering." "Does it make a difference?" Gar asked. "Not to me," said Boba. "Good. I wish everyone was like you, Tef." So that was, Boba handles the situation well, and
Tef, by the way, is the name he's going by, like the alias. So.
A really crafty alias.
Oh,
Tef.
Yeah, Tef. Yeah, it's backwards. But yeah, no, I was like, I'm not saying that's whatever you want to say about it. But it's just very surprising to see in this kind of book, and I thought it was handled pretty delicately. And even by today's standards, I think for the most part that would be seen.
It holds up.
Yeah, it holds up. So impressive, good job for Terry Bisson. So yeah, But what else happens? They become very fast friends, right?
Yes. And there's this big scene where the two of them decide to go, like they're constantly exploring the ship, and they go on a spacewalk together. They sneak out of an airlock and go on a spacewalk.
Like a Wall-E, like Eve situation.
Right. And things don't go well because the ship's about to make the jump to light speed, and they have only a short amount of time in order to get inside, which they do successfully. And they have a bonding moment of friends. So then they go to Cloud City, and this is where they're being offloaded. They're going to be taken to the orphanage, and Tef, a.k.a. Fett has no intentions of going to the orphanage because he's noticed that behind the ship there's a little orange dot, and he took out a pair of binoculars and was looking at it, and it turns out it's the Slave One, Aura Singh, and his Slave One are heading to Cloud City 2.
Remember, she had taken it at the end of the previous book. So.
Correct. As her reward for taking him to Dookie. Dookie. Yeah, I said Dookie.
Dookie, yeah. Dookie. You ever see No Holds Barred, the Hulk Hogan movie?
No, I have not.
Pretty funny. I'm not a wrestling person, as you know, but this movie's very funny. There's a scene where they're in a bathroom, and like there's some barroom brawl type thing in a bathroom, and like a guy pushes a dude into a toilet, his head or something, and he lifts his head, and he's like, Dookie! One of the funniest things ever. Anyway.
Anyway, Boba gets out of the clutches of the Jedi who are taking him to the orphanage, and he's running away. He decides to not even say goodbye to Gar because he knows a bounty hunter can have friends. So he starts running, and he hears Gar yelling for him, and he's like, no, like, don't sell me out, like, don't, he doesn't turn back until finally Gar catches up to him, and he says, hey, man, you forgot your flight bag. And it's like, oh, you're my best friend, Gar, that kind of thing. So at that point they share an exchange where Gar's like, well, you could stay an orphan and join my family whenever they're found. And Boba's like, nah, man, my dad was killed by a Jedi. I'm not telling you anything more than that. And Gar's like, all right. Well, then Aura Singh shows up. She nearly kills Gar, but she lets
Boba know that he needs to... What does he need to bring her in order to get Slave One back?
He needs to just show up, like, at a place.
Without the Jedi.
Without the Jedi, yeah.
And so he meets her, but then, Gar had told the authorities what was going on, so somebody had followed Boba, and Aura Singh is like, you double-crossed me, and goes to leave, but Boba... is able to eventually hitch a ride. I'm trying to remember how this happened.
She shoots the cloud car driver, the taxi driver.
Oh, yeah, and so he hops in the cloud car and chases after her.
Right.
And she hides in a cloud, basically, from the Jedi.
And Boba, like, leaps out of the cloud car onto Slave One, and then she catches him.
Scene. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's so used to just flying through the air and flying from moon to moon, He's the king of aeronautics.
Aeronautics?
Aeronautics, yes. So anyway, after that, she says, all right, I need you to pilot the ship. I see you're holding up your copy of Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2. Have you watched those yet?
No, I'll get to them in a few weeks. Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2 Blu-ray double pack. I'm sorry. Go on.
All right. So anyway, she's like, oh, I need you to fly my ship. Your ship, you can have it back, except I know where your father's fortune is. He's hidden it all over the place, and I need your retinal scan to get to it, so I'll take you to your father's fortunes, and you split the money with me 50-50. So Boba really has no choice in the matter, and he agrees, and that's where the book ends.
Listen, we got through that summary very quickly, but I think there's some fun stuff to talk about here. I enjoyed this. You had said before we were recording you liked this one more than the first book, right?
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you that it's like better. I will say I think it's less interesting or at least less interesting to talk about because the characterization is now kind of back in line with what we saw in the movie in Attack of the Clones. So there's not as much divergence there. I did think his friendship with Gar was interesting. I thought the tension of that was actually pretty interesting from Boba's perspective too, because I think they're kind of like hinting at that being like a vaguely romantic relationship on his part anyway, which I thought was interesting. And then it kind of goes brother sister or brother brother or something at the end, which it's also fine. But like at the beginning, like just his concern over over Gar's gender, I thought was like, at least in the beginning, felt kind of like this is because we know he's a horny boy, from the previous book.
Oh,
right?
Because of Padme.
Yeah, like the
but he's got mother issues too. So.
Yeah, who knows what it is? But Anakin, this is all wrapped up together for these characters.
They're very similar characters, more than they know.
Oh man, but I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a pretty unique relationship.
I have a theory that's probably not going to happen. Gar becomes Dengar.
I don't think that happens.
I don't think so either.
I'm pretty sure. Dengar does have a weird history in Legends though, because his origin is kind of told in a couple different ways. I know.
Yeah, it's like ex-Empire, something like that.
Well, there's stuff in Tales from the Bounty Hunters, and then I think there's another there's a comic book thing that's different, and then technically, obviously, Clone Wars, the animated series, was part of that timeline also, although it contradicted a lot of the stuff from this period. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
wasn't he voiced by Simon Pegg?
Maybe you look that up.
Okay,
or I can look it up. But I don't know. It's Dengar is a character I love. I don't think so because the character's not described as humanoid, but I think the skin color is different. Dengar is a white guy.
Oh yeah, he was Dengar, Simon Pegg.
Okay, cool.
So he's the canon voice of Dengar and of course the legend Unkar Plutt.
Here's the thing. Unkar Plutt might be the greatest character from the sequel trilogy.
I agree. He's the Watto of the sequel trilogy.
He's given us so many iconic. The Portions thing is iconic. I'll give them that.
I will say Force Awakens is an iconic moment of cinema. Would you agree with that?
Not cinema, but of movie going?
Blockbuster. Blockbuster cinema.
Movie culture? Sure. Movie cinema? Let's slow our roll a little bit.
Okay.
But, it's fine.
So this book, Boba interacting with the clones was interesting. Like you said, though, why would the clones not recognize him?
I think there should be a whole book in this series that's focused on that.
Right, I agree.
That to me is enough. That's a rich enough idea for a full story.
It was there were multiple ideas for full stories here, and they're not there. So you have the whole Dooku thing at the beginning, which almost feels like they're setting up this is the whole story. He's going to be stuck with this character, and there's the whole
but we know he has to get to Jabba at some point.
Right, and then he gets picked up by the clones, which could have been its own book kind of thing. And then there's this whole thing with Aurra Sing and everything. So, but yes, he's got to get to Jabba, and he's got to learn power, which he learned a little bit from Dooku, but that's about it. So,
you ever see this movie I'm holding up to you right now?
Crazy Beautiful. I have not.
I haven't either. I found it on the shelf. Anyway. Sorry, I got distracted.
You're very tired. We should wrap this up.
Listen, there's not a ton to talk about, but
this book to me is better in the fact that it's not mostly a review of Attack of the Clones.
Sure.
So that stuff last week bored me out a little bit because
I was very disappointed because at the very beginning of this book there was a thing with where there was a droid that was making a sound like whir that woke him up, and I thought it was going to be whir, that we were going to take another dip into the whirpool. Whir, the librarian droid, of course, from the first book.
Right. Or is he a droid? We don't know.
Positive it's a droid. Positive. Go back and read.
He was crying.
Yes, but it's a droid. Anyway, unless there's some sort of dumb Transformers-style planet where there's living beings that are machines or whatever. Get out of here, Transformers.
Transformers is garbage. It's
garbage. Always bad. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah. So, but I was disappointed with that. So for that, I have to knock off at least a full point. But I don't know. I thought this was pretty good. I didn't like it quite as much. I had a better time with the first one, but I don't know how much of that was just because it was new. A new thing.
There was way more unintentional silliness in the first book too.
That too. I just had a better time with it, even if it's maybe not as good, quote unquote. I'll make that a 6 out of 10 midichlorians. I think I gave the first one 7, so I'll go with a 6, and I will flavor it with that clone trooper whose number I don't remember.
Okay, C24619.
Exactly.
I think his name is.
Exactly.
And I'm going to go... I gave the last book a 6. I think you've swayed me a little bit on my thoughts on this book. So we're mostly agreeing, per usual. But I'm also going to give this book a 6. And I'm going to flavor Gar, because Gar is a unique character that I don't think we'll ever approach in any of these books, no matter what series we're reading again. And I think Gar was handled very well.
I wonder if we'll see Gar again. I hope so.
I hope so, too.
That'd be interesting. So the next book in the series is what?
Hang on. I gotta stand up here. Oh, the knees. They don't work well anymore.
Yeah, they're bad.
All right. Maze of Deception is
Maze
the
of
next
Deception. One. I better put on my cloak of deception, if you know what if you catch my drift. That book's awesome, actually.
We got a big photo of Ara Singh on the cover of this, and then that one, the one like senator, separatist senator. You know who I'm talking about? Can you see him? Oh wait, I'm holding up.
I actually can't see you right now. Your connection is poor.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'll be surprised.
Okay. It's a really bad CGI rendering of the character, so...
Yeah, well, that's most of these covers. So we haven't talked much about the covers, but they're poor. They're quite poor. They are poor. Yeah, so... I've been reading that Office book you told me about that came out. Pretty fun. Entertaining stuff. I like oral histories about TV shows. It's a fine format for that kind of thing. Yeah, that's all.
Well, that's good. Any fun anecdotes from the set?
It seems everybody spoke very nicely about each other. The one guy that was like the assistant director who had to deal with schedules said it got very annoying in the middle of the show, and everybody had movie careers, like to schedule around everything. Mm-hmm. That was a big chunk of the book. I'm on season 9, going into season 9 now. So season 8, they talked correct amounts of shit on. So hopefully they'll do the same thing with season 9. So
well, that's good. Those are the worst seasons. So
anyway, they praised 7 a little too highly for my liking. Season 6 and 7, both the true beginning of the decline, just masked by the fact that Steve Carell is still on the show. That's my view.
Yep, I can see that.
The first 5 seasons, impeccable. Anyway. Why are we talking about The Office? Sorry.
Yep, all right. Next week, Maze of Deception.
Maze of Deception, and then we're moving back to the Jude world. Well, we're possible. Who knows? Maybe that's next week. Who knows?
We might be entering it next week.
Or the Handiverse, quote unquote. All right, so please follow us on all our social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Padawan Library. You might be able, maybe you'll get a picture of the bracket I made.
Yes,
not that it matters.
It's not Star Wars related.
No, it probably won't go up anyway. So there's that, and what else? Just grab our T-shirt if you want to. If you want us to make $1 a piece,
it helps. It helps.
Hey,
if we sell 10 T-shirts, it'll pay for the show for the month.
Then it covers our hosting costs. So there's that. Which, by the way, you owe me $10.
Okay, all right.
It's fine.
Right.
No rush.
I haven't got that refund check yet. No, the stimulus check yet.
You'll be fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I didn't mean to call you out on the air. It's perfectly fine. $10 at some point. It doesn't matter.
You'll get it.
Anyway, and I need the description of the book again. We're going to make this a weekly thing. All right.
All right. Until the books are due back, this episode lost energy.
This is not the best episode in the world, and I apologize again. But yeah. Library's closed for now. Sorry.
Bye.
Okay. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by the Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Peretic. All rights reserved.